It is another fantastic day here at Fun King Garage, and today I'm going to be looking over the 1955 Ford Fairlane to see what it's going to take to get it ready for power tour. Now, I've only had this car in my possession for about 24 hours, which means everything I discover, we're going to discover together. So, let's go. With the new car home, it's time to get going and get it ready for power tour. I know power tour is still a long way off, but there could be a lot to do. I don't really know. I don't actually know a whole lot about the car. But what I do know is that the rear tires are rubbing on the fenders, and it's actually caused some body damage. I knew this before I bought it, and it's okay. Hurts me a little, but we'll get around that. And I'm thinking what the problem is somewhere along the lines they've changed the axle out. And this axle is wider than the stock one, and it's actually pushed the tires too far out. So we're going to get it up in the air. We're going to learn what's going on underneath there. Then we're going to find a solution. Rock solid. Now, I wrote myself a list of questions that I've been spooling through my head all day long on what I want to see up underneath here. So I'm going to kind of go through those one by one. But first of all, let's get underneath there and see, well, what it is that we're working with. So the light in the shop back here is not real great. Lighting down there is good. Lighting back here, not so good. Something I'm working on for the future. So I'm going to poke around for a little bit. Then I'll bring you back in and show you what I found. So the first thing I do notice is that the pinion seal is leaking a little bit, and it looks like maybe it's leaking out of the gasket. It's the only wet that's on the floor after the car's been inside all night, so I guess that's not too bad. Some of you have maybe already noticed, but that's a Ford 9-inch rear end, which excites me, except for it also kind of confirms my theories, and that is that this is not the factory axle. This car did not come in 1955 with a 9-inch rear end, but I'm almost positive that is a 9-inch rear end. It does have the recessed cups that will not allow you to get the long deep well sockets in there, so pretty sure that is a 9-inch. Now I'm also noticing something over here. Let me get you around here so you can see it too. If you look here where the saddles were welded onto the axle, you can clearly tell that is not a factory weld job. In fact, it's a little boogery. Got a spring in there holding the emergency brake cable back. And I also noticed the top of that shock. Ooh, gotta get your way back. The top of that shock's not even connected. It's just laying in there. So we're definitely going to have to get that taken care of as well. Now, knowing that this is a Ford 9-inch rear end and confirming the fact that this was not factory and somebody added this after the fact, that does explain why these tires are pushed out so far. So I want to take a bunch of measurements, write some things down, and then we're going to figure out a solution to this. And I think it's going to be a good one. It's not Fozzie track. had a feeling that was coming. Suspension bushings are completely fried. We're going to say about 12 inches. Let's verify it's the same on this side. All right, so admittedly I'm ill-equipped to make these measurements. I'm going to have to come up with some way to be able to measure from face to face. So I'll do that now. If I know what it is from face to leaf and leaf to leaf and leaf to face, we can use what's called math and add that up and figure out what is this face to face. Let's go over here. So I took a lot of measurements, I wrote a lot of notes down, and then I did some of that stuff called math. And it looks like this particular axle is 59 3/4 inches out to out. And looking at the housing, I am guessing that it's a axle out of a classic Mustang. But 59 3/4 is definitely too wide for this car. As I understand it, the stock rear end out to out is like 57 1/4. Don't hold me to that. I'll have to double check. I'm recalling this out of my memory, and at my age that isn't so good anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rest of these calculations and figure out what the optimum size would be to allow me to put the fattest tire I can put into that rear wheel well, and I will then order a new Ford 9-inch housing and trimmable axle shafts to make it the size that I want it to be, and then we can get some fatter tires under there. Because if you see, these are actually a little bit skinny, and I'd like a little more meat on the ground. I need to pull my current axle shafts and count the splines. I need to know, are they 28 spline or 31 spline, so I can do my research and see what my options are for replacement parts. Oh, I know it won't be, but I really want it to be a 31 spline. Now listen, I know what you're thinking. You're watching me put a puller on the axle shaft off of the flange. And you're right, that's not going to work. But what it is going to do is it's going to give me something to grab onto. Stays rather stuck in there. Probably far enough, right? I wasn't getting that out of there without that work. Yeah, that wasn't coming out. Yeah, I can't remember. Can't remember what the last thing I needed it for. Well, I can't remember the last couple times, but I almost went and bought one. Not that long ago. It's probably the vet. Something on the vet. And then I figured out how to do it without it. The factory axle being 57 inches wide, I'm going 56, mainly because that's what was available, but that's going to allow me a wider tire. Yeah, look how rusty all of this stuff is. That's never been out of there. Not in all the years. I don't know for sure what year this axle is, but the best I can tell, it's from the early 60s, like a 63. But I mean, look, that's all in good shape. So, all right, now.
So that's what you're replacing?
The housing and these two shafts.
The housing from where?
Side to side. So the pumpkin comes out of this.
Oh, okay.
You know, usually you have a cover on the back. This one, the whole pumpkin comes out, like my truck.
Yeah.
So it's the whole axle housing from bearing flange to bearing flange. So this, which is just laying in here right now, like this goes away. So from this flange to that flange, third member out, and then two axle shafts. And then they're two different sizes because of where the ring gear is.
Right.
And then I have to get new leaf perches and weld all that in, which I'm sure I'll do a better job than they did. Welds. I'm going to mark this one. And then with my eyeballs, I'm going to count the one with the mark. 1, 2, 3, 7, 28. I'll count them one more time to be sure.
Verify it. 27.
Well, you did something wrong because there's no such thing.
28.
Yeah. Well, I zoomed in on the picture and counted them as 28. All right, so here's the suck part of that. 31 spline axles are stronger. They're beefier. I have the weaklings. No, I'm not putting 600 horsepower in this thing yet. When that day comes, I'll swap out the axles in the new third member. In fact, at the point that I decide to finally put a posi in, I'll go to 31 spline axles. It's about $300 more.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to have to buy a third member now, because the third member is $1,000 for the posi track, limited slip. So, but now I have verified it, so now I know what to order.
You're gonna replace the bearings and everything.
Yeah, it comes with, there's no bearing inside. I mean, there is, but it's part of the third member. But the new shafts come with new bigger bearings. They refer to them as the Torino style. So yeah, it'll have new bearing ends, which is why I have to replace the brake backing, because the holes where these 4 bolts are is a different pattern. It's larger. So, and again, if I'm going to replace those, might as well replace it with something good. Well, and that brake over there is wet. In fact, you can see it's dripped, and I don't know if that's brake fluid because the wheel cylinder didn't look wet. I didn't pull that drum off until today.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I love about stuff like this. Like, I like to learn.
Yeah.
And I have no issue admitting when I don't know something. You know, like, oh, gotta research that. So now the new axle shafts don't have this access hole in them because the shafts are actually drilled for 3 different bolt patterns. So I took a ton of measurements, and with all of those measurements, there was a lot of decisions to be made. Now, it is definitely a Ford 9-inch rear end in this thing, but it's not the one that was in here originally because this car didn't have a Ford 9-inch rear end. It was actually apparently some like one-off 8-inch something rear end. And of course, with the power upgrade this car has, I'm sure that rear end would not have held up. But now with all of these measurements made, this one turned out to be 59 inches from face to face. And the original axle in this car was only 57 inches from face to face. So that gave us the problem of the tires rubbing on the inside of the fender wells. And we don't want that. I did play with buying a different rim that's got a deeper back spacing on it, but of course then you're losing the lip in the front and it's going to start to look funny. Plus, those rims were $480 a piece for a 15-inch torque thrust. So the decision was made, a new rear end is coming. So now we play the part of sit around and wait for the parts to show up. That's the favorite game that everybody loves to play in the automotive industry. So once that has arrived, I will give you the full rundown on what it is and why I made the decision. So we order parts and we wait. Of course, my wait is different than your wait. You have to wait for the next episode. I have to wait for the parts and, well, make the next episode. Will it be enough to fix it? I don't know yet, but you will find out in the next episode. So make sure you're subscribed and you ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss it. Listen, Power Tour is going to be here before we know it, and we definitely want to be ready. And I hope to see you guys out there. Thanks for watching. Will it be enough? Don't know, but you will find out in the next episode.